Hello. Because of recent huge controversy around this character's name's pronunciation, in this video, I'm just gonna call him as this character's instead. Anyway, let's get started. This character is Genshin's first 5-star Danjo characters, and I'm gonna be very honest straight out the gate, and that is he's kind of meant to be very honest. But regardless, you probably shouldn't roll for him anyway, unless you really like him and you just really like his personality or design and you really want him for that reason, because he's gonna be added to the standard banner after 3.1, and so his roll value wasn't very high to begin with, and unless he was an exceptionally broken character that you have to have, which by the way is not, then it doesn't really make sense at all to roll for him. And so yeah, that's the verdict 100%. I'll tell you right now that you shouldn't roll for him because he doesn't have a lot of roll value. With that being said, I want to talk about what is his current problem, why is he currently being like held back a little bit, and just, you know, stuff. With that being said, as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get started. Now, this character is going to be played as a spread DPS, where you pair him with a electro characters to trigger the quicken aura on the enemy, and finally doing a bunch of spread reaction damage. Unfortunately, he doesn't really work well with other element at all, including pyro or hydro for various reasons. Now, for one, Danger doesn't really work with pyro as you start triggering burning, which completely ruin all your reaction. But for this character, he also unfortunately doesn't really work that well to do a bloom comp, which I'll slowly explain. But unfortunately, he's going to be locked into playing a single target quicken composition, which do have some problem. For example, one of these major problem is that it is strictly single target. Just like Yoimiya, this character have no method of doing AoE damage at all, and they're strictly locked to single target because of how their auto targeting on the arrow work. And so that's pretty much mean that their AoE potential is 0, and they're never going to get a AoE multiplier. And being able to do AoE damage is one of the biggest and the most important factor when it comes to Genshin Impact, as being able to hit more enemy is usually just better. Coming into the quicken composition, the primary playstyle for him is pretty much going to be a half quicken quick swap, where you cast his elemental skill and burst, as well as cast 3 of his charge attack, since after you cast your elemental skill, your next 3 charge attack will have dramatically reduced cast time, and then once you're done with that, you just switch to your other character and you cast all their elemental skill and burst. So this character doesn't really stay on field for that long. He just casts all his elemental skill and burst, and then he swapped out. So to that extent, he's pretty much playing like a quick swap comp, which is really convenient as his elemental skill and burst has really low cooldown and energy. So it's quite easy to spam around with him, but that's pretty much his major playing style. So unlike traditional main DPS where they stay on the field for extended period of time like Hu Tao or Yoimiya, this character doesn't really do that. He's more of a quick swap type character. Let's talk about his Danjo application. To be honest, he kind of have a really interesting way of applying his element compared to the rest of the character in Genshin Impact. In Genshin Impact, most of the character applied their element in a very consistent way, something like once every 1 second or once every 2 seconds. For example, character like Xingqiu's or Kokomi can apply Hydro very consistently. For this character, however, he applied Danjo very fast and a lot of Danjo while he's on field, and then he applied no amount of Danjo while he's off field. That means that he applied Danjo in quick bursts once in a while, and then he just doesn't do it anymore after he switched off field. The reason of that is because he, of course, for one, have no off-field Danjo application, but when he is on the field, his charge attack will apply 2 Danjo application each, and then his elemental burst can actually apply 4 Danjo application in just his elemental burst itself. And then, of course, combine it with your initial cast of elemental skill. What will end up happening is that you will apply a lot of Danjo in a very short period of time, within seconds, and then you just don't apply Danjo anymore. And this is one of the reasons why he doesn't work well with Hydro characters. There's no Hydro characters in the game that can support his rapid elemental application while he's on field, and of course while he's off field he doesn't apply Danjo anymore, and it's just not compatible with our current Hydro characters and the way they apply their element. To put it in word, he's Genshin Impact first burst elemental applicator, where he apply a bunch of element in a short burst and then just none after. What I mean is that you don't really have to worry about running a Hydro character in your party, because you will very easily just wipe off the Hydro when you're bursting for your application, and then you can trigger quicken very easily. And then once you're done triggering it, you don't really care about the other Hydro application. And so that means that you can bloom. Side effect is that the amount you actually bloom is so insignificant that there's pretty much no point of playing a bloom team in his party. You're probably gonna get like 2 Bloom every rotation, which is just not very good if you're trying to play a Bloom team. This is the reason why he's only playable in Quicken team, because Quicken doesn't care about the way you apply Danjo at all. All it cares is that you apply one single instance of Danjo, let's say every 10 seconds, and you're good. So it doesn't really matter if you're bursting your elemental down, it will work regardless. And so that's the reason why he's locked it into a Quicken team. There's a secondary problem with the way he applied Danjo, which is that his only AoE Danjo application is his elemental skill initial cast, and it has a very small AoE radius nonetheless. That means that if you fail to apply Danjo in an AoE area with your elemental skill cast, then you won't be able to apply Danjo to a massive amount of enemy within the next 12 seconds, as you have to wait for your elemental skill cooldown to finishes. And this just makes him a really terrible Danjo applicator for AoE scenarios. Keep in mind that while his elemental skill do create a field lingering after, the field does not apply any Danjo. It's only the initial cast of his elemental skill that apply Danjo. It is very difficult to apply Danjo in a AoE area, especially after you miss your elemental skill, because you cannot swirl Danjo. So the assistant of a Nemo character doesn't really help there. Now, while you can argue that, oh, you can just use a Kazuya first to group the enemy together and then apply Danjo in AoE using your elemental skill, that is not necessarily the most reliable thing, because sometimes the enemy just are not tightly packed, and so you might miss 1 or 2 enemy depending on their size, depending on what kind of enemy they are in terms of your Danjo application. The reason why this is a problem is because without Danjo application, you can't trigger Quicken. That means that it is hard to apply Quicken in a AoE area, and so even if you're running good AoE Electro characters, they actually might not be able to do aggravate on the other enemy because your Danjo application are so single target locked in. And so this overall causes the second major problem when it comes to this characters, which is he is strictly single target locked in. And I mean super strictly, even more strict than Yoimiya. Yoimiya is one of the most single target lock character in the game, as she has absolutely no method of really doing any AoE. However, with that being said, she can definitely get some help from her teammate. For example, running a Taser Yoimiya comp with Beidou and Fisher together could be a acceptable way or a decent way to give her a little bit of AoE, or you could just run something like Xiangling. The problem with this character is, of course, you are very limited when it comes to drafting a team. As we mentioned at the beginning of the video, Danjo character doesn't really work that well with Pyro characters or Hydro characters. So your only choices here are Electro characters, which dramatically limit your pool already. On top of the fact that even if you bring Electro characters, they might not be able to proc aggravate in AoE fashion because you can't apply Danjo in an AoE format. This heavily limits your AoE potential because it heavily limits what kind of teammate you can run to begin with. One of the biggest selling points when it comes to Yoimiya is that she's extremely easy to play for very good single target damage. However, I don't know if you can say the same thing about these characters, given that they are, first of all, not as easy to play and they're just so much more restrictive. And Yoimiya was already not a very high bar. Of course, you can circumvent this problem by running a secondary Danjo characters, but the problem is that currently the other Danjo characters, which are Danjo Traveler and Kali, just doesn't really do a lot outside of applying Danjo. And you really don't need more Danjo application already, as you are already running these characters, where Quicken doesn't really care about how much Danjo you apply anyway. And so the end result is that you're pretty much just wasting one of your character slot just to run a secondary Danjo characters, just so you can apply Danjo in the AoE area. And it's not a very great use of opportunity cost. So yeah, overall, he's very restrictive when it comes down to his playstyle, because he's very single target locked, but he's also very restrictive when it comes to team drafting, as he can only work with a handful amount of characters, which are his 2 biggest problems by far. And overall, I just think he's kind of meh, to be honest. Now, I'll be very honest right now that overall, I still had a really fun time playing with him. I think it's definitely fun to play him, but the biggest thing I want to call is that, to be honest, this is a expected result. He's a standard banner characters, and I really thought that they would make a really strong standard banner character from the get-go, as you can just, well, they're not limited characters and their values are not as high as limited characters. But in addition to the fact that our current Genshin Impact rosters were not designed with Danjo in mind, you quickly realize that most of the current Genshin Impact characters just doesn't really work that well with Danjos, as they weren't decided with them in mind. However, moving on from the futures, the new characters is gonna get designed with Danjo in mind. We know that in Genshin Impact 3.1, they have announced that there will be 3 new characters, including Candace, Arceus, Nilo, as well as Sino, who are Electros and Hydro. And of course, what do? They react with Danjo to create Bloom or Quicken. So maybe he will be better in the futures when we eventually get actual character that can work well with him. But at the current moment, he just doesn't work well because of it just not having any option for us at all, and that's why he's meant for the most part. And that is pretty much my first impression for this character. And I'll be very honest right now, I personally think that he is really low roll value. He's pretty much a below average character when it comes to roll value. On top of the fact that he's a standard banner character, just mean he doesn't make sense to roll for him at all unless you like him extremely, and so you really want him on his quote-unquote limited banner. And I hope this doesn't really disappoint anyone, but I'm just trying to address some of his problem. In fact, this is an overall problem that Danjo have, which is just we don't have the character to support the elemental reaction since, well, they will be coming in the futures. But with that being said, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.